must live as Jesus did. May God bless the words. Can we go to the first slide, please? So, what does real faith look like? Which is real? Which is AI? Who says the one on the left is real? Come on, boldly proclaim. Hands up if you believe it's real. Who believes the one on the right is real? The one on the left is real. Well done. You can have a biscuit. Right. Who believes the left is real? Who believes the right is real? Who's not willing to make a commitment? The right is real. So that one. Well done for those of you. Right. Next one. Who believe left is real? Raise your hand if you believe the left one is real. Who believes the right one is real? Ooh. Left one is real. Scary, isn't it? Right, last one. Who believes the left picture is real? I'll tell you what, some of you are being a bit, not really sure. Who believes the right is real? Ooh, the right one is real. Well done, well done. So this is the reality. This is what we see kind of on a daily basis. Our lives are accessed through filters, AI images, social media stories, and news, all of which promise authenticity, but in reality, it often hides the truth. There may be a little bit of truth in it, and then the rest of it is just not true. And the problem, it's not propaganda from the left or the right. This is the world we live in. And unfortunately, society in general, we don't want the truth anymore. We want what makes us look good. It's why a lot of us have, I don't, because I'm better than that, but a lot of us have our Facebook filters, and we take our pictures, and who's done it? Who's embellished their Facebook photos? Don't have Facebook. But we are so afraid and so concerned, and we don't want the truth. We don't want people to know who we are. We don't want people to recognize. And unfortunately, this is getting worse and worse and worse. And AI is scary, but it's not AI in and of itself. It's how we use it. And like everything else, we can find what we want. And I was speaking to someone earlier. If you want to believe in something, you can go online and you can find exactly what you want to believe in. I'm not suggesting you try it, because you may get into something dodgy. But you could find anything. You could find documents, you can find videos, you can find scientific people to say, oh, this is all true. And it is scary, and it is hard to move on from this. But this is what we have to recognize, that truth isn't always as easily identifiable. So as we move on, for those of you who know, we had a series called Christianish, and the next step challenges us as to what we've learned about that series, and to move on from being half-hearted or being comfortable, and to ask this question here. What does... hold on. Did I move forward too much? No? Okay, maybe that's the question. I don't know where we're at in this. What is real faith? We'll have a look at this. Maybe this is where I'm supposed to be. Maybe that is the question. There you go. Am I one behind? Oh, no. Anyhow. There you go. That's the question I want to ask you guys. What does real faith look like when it's lived out every day? What does it look like? So our reading in 1 John invites us to look at the differences between the appearance and authenticity, to move from saying you are a Christian to actually living out as a Christian. So we read about this guy called John. John was a disciple of Jesus when he first started. Now, just to give a little quick background, how many think John was one of the older guys? Out of the 12 disciples, do you think John was one of the oldest or one of the youngest? How old do you think John was? If you've heard me speak before, you should know this. They think he was between the ages of 15 and 20 when he started. And John wrote this book now. He's a bit older. And he's saying, look, I have witnessed this. I have seen it. I have walked with Jesus. I have talked with Jesus. I've seen his death. I've seen his resurrection. This isn't a fairy tale. I've lived it out. I'm an eyewitness to these truths. And the early church began to grow. And unfortunately, like many things, when you put humans involved and humans in charge of stuff, they tend to distort things, because that's unfortunately what we do. And John was saying, look, you guys need to change. You've gone away from what Jesus has taught. And they were beginning to go into this idea that there's a secret language, a secret knowledge, and only special people can hold on to it. And this is what was happening to the early church. They were becoming more and more involved with themselves and less involved with who Jesus actually was. And so John wrote this letter to say, look, it's time to come back to the heart of Christianity. It's time to come back to the heart of what we are about, a faith that is both known but also a faith that is shown. And John puts forward this bold statement. He says, real truth and real life comes only through Jesus. John's message was very simple. Stay anchored to what is true and let that truth lead you. So how do we do this? John's main point in this first chapter is this, that faith begins with relationship. John opens up with his eyewitness testimony. For John, his faith wasn't theoretical, it was relational. Why should we listen to John? Because he isn't sharing secondhand faith. He's sharing a lived out experience. This is what makes Christianity very unique, is the people who wrote about it wrote because they were there. They were eyewitnesses. They lived it. And so it's important to understand the significance of what this means. You see, in John's time, to think about being involved in religion, you would give sacrifices. You would go to a priest. You would set yourself apart and let someone else who was holy to go into the Holy of Holies. Special people set aside to do the work of God. And Jesus changed all that. And Jesus said, no, you can actually have a relationship with God. This was so significant. And it is what got people killed. Because how can you, mortal, have a relationship with God? It was revolutionary to know the Creator as Father. Abba, Father. Not Father distance, but Daddy. That's the relationship John was talking about. That is the relationship that makes Christianity unique. We go to a God who wants to walk with us, who wants to carry us, who wants to be there for us. And Jesus changed all this. Through Jesus, God became with us, and he recognized that actually it's not about rules, it's about relationship. And the relationship with Jesus not only changed John, but everyone who accepted him. We have a guy called Stephen who was stoned to death because of how he proclaimed of Jesus, how he proclaimed he wanted to be a follower. And that's a hard way to die. Being stoned to death. Because you know you would get groups. I always think about the Monty Python group. But you know you would get someone who doesn't quite throw as hard. And it'd be like, ow, that hurt. And then you get someone who throws a little bit harder. And you would have lots and lots of people. Stoning happened a lot. And they said you would get around 100 to 200 people all stoning that person. It would be relentless. It would be nonstop until that person was dead. You know how many stones it would take to finally kill someone? And yet he said what Jesus said as he was dying, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they're doing. You then have a guy called James, who was the brother of John, who was executed because of his allegiance. And then 100 years later, you had a guy called Polycarp, who served for 87 years. And as he was executed, said, how can I turn away from the king who I believe in? Century after century after century, people who believed wholeheartedly in the Savior who was willing to die. Only love born of relationship produces that kind of costly fidelity. Now, yes, there are people who will die for their beliefs, but Christianity is about living, not about dying. It's about living in your faith, not willing to die for it per se. It's saying, I give and surrender all, not trying to die. This relationship was about living each day. Christianity is about knowing God's heart. And so my question to you is this. If we can go to that next slide, or that slide that was, and hopefully, do you follow Jesus because you believe it's true or because it is expected of you? Do you go to church because that's what is expected of you? Sorry, Annabelle, you have to come whether you like it or not. But you do have a choice, as long as it's coming to church. But do you come to church because it's expected? Do you read the Bible because, well, that's expected of me. That's what I'm supposed to do. We have generations who grew up in church, and some of you older people will be in that generation. It was expected of you to come to church. And so now you're here because that's what you do. And so my question is actually, are you coming here because you fully, wholeheartedly believe in God? Is your faith real? Do you have a relationship with God? If we generally want to grow beyond just being Christianish, we need to begin a relationship with Him. But John carries out announcing that from this relationship with God, we get the outpouring desire to walk in the light and follow Him. And walking in the light means honesty. It means removing those filters. It means showing the world, this is who I am. All my faults, all my failures, all of those things which you don't want people to see, walking in the light means that the light is shining on you and you say, this is who I am. It's not saying I'm not going to try and change, but it is saying I want to do the best I can. I want to be better tomorrow than I am today. But today, this is who I am. Being honest and being open. Real faith doesn't just confess I make mistakes. Real faith says, I will walk the path that you're asking me to go on, God. You see, when we walk in light and obedience, we reflect God's truth to the world. Yes, we all mess up. But real faith owns up to that messiness and returns to grace. Real faith says, I'm sorry. Help me to be better. Why? Because you're in a relationship. You are in a relationship with the Creator. And you want to be better. You want to please the person you're in a relationship with. Otherwise, it's not a relationship. John says, it's plain as can be. We claim to know God, but don't obey Him. We're deceiving ourselves. Walking in the light is not about perfection. It's about direction. As we read through 1 John, we'll begin to look at what it is to be a disciple and follower of Jesus. The question is whether or not you want to carry on with this journey, wherever it will go. And for some of you, that journey may be rough, may be difficult. But this is the journey that we are on. And as a relationship, God is saying, I'm here with you. I will not leave you, nor forsake you. You might not understand it, you might not get it, but this is why I always say to people, listen, you may have a head knowledge which says, I cannot believe in God. But God is saying, how about your heart? Can you let me into your heart? Because sometimes we simply will not grasp or understand. We just can't. We are asking to know the mind of God. And God says, you might not be able to understand, but at least allow me to walk with you. This is what it is to have a relationship. Is there another slide on there? Can you put the last slide on? Is your faith based on what you know about God or on you personally knowing God? Do you personally know God? I'm not asking you to raise your hand or to say it out loud, but I will say this, you can know that relationship. As I said, I spoke to someone previous days, and I have to be honest, there may not be a God, but I've lost nothing if there isn't, I've lost nothing. But if there is a God, I've gained everything. My heart tells me from my relationship that there is a God. And part of my little head, my little brain, says there's got to be something more. They're nearly in tune. But there will be times in which I struggle, in which I sort of don't understand. But the question is, do you know God? Or do you just know about him? We're going to come to a time of communion. And these are all on your tables. If you're unsure about this, we're going to look at a few things with communion. For those of you who are at home, or if you're live on Zoom, you can grab some juice and grab some bread. But it's something that Christians do to acknowledge and remember what Jesus did for us. And on your table, you'll have bread, you'll have juice. They represent the body which was broken. They represent the blood which was spilled out. There's nothing special about this stuff. This is Sainsbury's juice and Tesco or whatever, Rolls or maybe Little, I don't know. They're just drink and bread. They won't save you. You don't become a Christian by having it. But you can acknowledge, if you're not a Christian, to say, okay, God, I don't know you, but I'd like to know you. You are a Christian, and maybe you're going, you know, I didn't do the best I could have yesterday. I was a bit lazy yesterday. I was a bit mean yesterday. I could have done this yesterday. An opportunity to say, God, I acknowledge that you're there and you gave everything for me. And so we're going to take it as a family. But before we do that, I've got some cards to hand out. I'll hand them out to each of them. Actually, I'll get my slaves to do it. Anyone willing to? Oh, look at that. Wonderful. Thank you, Esther. And anyone willing to help Esther? Just hand these out on the table. Thank you. One per table. Thank you, Amy. Isn't this great? It's great to have young people. But if you look on them, there's a set of questions. Things that we can do individually and things that we can support each other collectively to form this relationship with God. 5 minutes of honesty prayer. I have asked people to do this, and I do this sometimes, and just simply say, God, I need help today. And if that's all it is, that's all it needs to be. Every day. God, I need help today. God, I don't know if you're there. Please just speak to me. God, there's these things going on. Can you please go into this? Whatever it is, but be honest. Read all of 1 John. Little bit for the next week or so. Surrender each morning. Jesus, you lead, I will follow. Just make this a commitment. Forgive specifically. Give. I like this other one. I don't know how many will do this. Bless an irritant. Every morning bless an irritant. Who do you know is just a bother? Bless them. Lord, help them to grow. Help them to be successful. Help them to have a great day. This is what we need to do. Because when we do this stuff, we actually form a habit of what Jesus did. Jesus blessed everyone. He loves everyone. He died for everyone. And this helps us to become more about a relationship. I like the last one as well. Come in 10 minutes early. Learn a new name and encourage one person. We are a growing church. How many here would say, I don't quite know everyone's name? Come in 10 minutes early and just say, I'm so-and-so. I'm Shane. What's your name? Oh, you're Lydia. Hello, Lydia. Learn someone's new name and bless them. All of this builds us as a church family. All of this builds us as a fellowship.